So thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. If you could tell everybody who's listening and watching a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background.
I was growing up in a farm family way back when, and went on to study agricultural engineering in Turkey, and then had my master's in Italy, and came to CSU for a PhD in ag engineering. So starting from early ages, I've been into farming business or farming sector, either like doing it or advising or teaching it, all around. I work for USDA Water Research Center in Fort Collins for 4 years, and then came to state to non-point source program. I still work for them, and non-point source program is part of Water Quality Control Division under Department of Public Health and Environment, or CDPHE.
Thank you. So you kind of described that your job is with CDPHE under the non-point source. Can you tell everybody what your job entails?
Well, the non-point source is, there are two sources of pollution. One of them point sources, we are not going to be talk about this, but those are the like wastewater treatment facilities and all that sort. The other one is the non-point sources, which includes agriculture. This is the sources, these are the sources that resulting from, let's say, rain, snowmelt, or runoff, which water goes through the surface or through the water, and while it is going down the hill or let's say field in ag, it picks up pollutants and carries them with it, and eventually deposits them in the lakes, reservoirs, wetlands, you name it, and groundwater. So we simply call those state waters, and which is getting pollutant from different sources, as I said. So non-point source program is dealing with controlling those sources, contributing to the state waters, hopefully. So with this, I work with the agricultural sector to minimize these sources to the state waters by implementing best management practices, or BMPs, which will fit into one's operations, farming operations. At the state, I do this with a small group of experts by providing what is called, this is important, EPA's non-point source grants to the stakeholders to implement those best management practices, or BMPs. BMPs also aim at improving the bottom lines of the agricultural sector or stakeholders. The other thing I do at the state is conducting outreach and education program to the stakeholders about the non-point source program and funding opportunities to implement those BMPs to control non-point sources.
So what about soil and water health intrigues you the most?
Well, the thing is, as I said, I come from a farming family, and I have been, as an agricultural engineer, I was always involved in soil and water as well as their interactions. So I think there is an organic bond between soil and water health, or I say quality. So I think a healthy soil will provide quality crops, productive grazing lands, diverse wildlife, and beautiful, of course, landscapes, as well as, in our case, clean water not only by expanding the water holding capacity, but also by filtering and buffering potential pollutants and cycling nutrients. So this process is exactly what we are trying to do in our program, keeping the agricultural inputs like nutrients, sediments, and other pollutants in the soil where they belong. Therefore, it is critical that we implement as many BMPs as possible to make that organic bond stronger.
Absolutely. So, what's the big deal? Why focus on soil and more specifically water quality, whether that's statewide or in our neck of the woods, in our little portion of the state?
I talked about that organic bond, right, between soil and water quality. The Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, estimates that sediment loss from water erosion is 1 to 1.5 tons per acre per year. So, with the sediment, other pollutants also move, like those pollutants, nutrients, pesticides, you name it. So also move. It is the big deal since agriculture is non-regulated sector where it voluntarily implements BMPs to control non-point source parameters. It is known that agricultural sector has been implementing these BMPs for years with actually with an increasing pace, getting only more BMPs implemented. This was especially after NRCS established the, what is it called, Environmental Quality Incentive Program in 1996. But is that enough? That is the question that asked by the Water Quality Control Commission in 2012 when it promulgated a nutrient management control regulation. We call it Regulation 85. The Commission wanted to see sufficient progress in voluntary implementation of BMPs in the agricultural sector to control nutrients, to decide if new regulations are necessary for agricultural activities. So here is the big deal for you. Going from a non-regulated status to a regulated one. Who would like that? So in an effort to keep agriculture voluntary, soil health practices such as cover crops, reduced tillage, crop rotations, or better management of inputs like nutrients, in this case, or water, can play a very important role in reducing agricultural inputs going into the state waters and basically keeping them in the soil where they belong, as I said.
So what's the water quality like in the lower Arkansas Valley?
Water quality in the lower Arkansas River and its tributaries are variable quality-wise. And some showing elevated nutrients based on CSU studies and our samplings. Again, implementing BMPs would help keep the nutrients in the soil. Some of these BMPs can be better managed by managing the water, better scheduling irrigation, create a better irrigation scheduling, and nutrient management that is based on CSU recommendations. Soil health practices can help a lot, like those practices, say cover crops, no or reduced tillage, whatever the stakeholders prefer. Crop rotation of shallow and deep rooted crops can also help. And again, selection of any of these BMPs is up to the producers and her current operations. But again, the water quality in the lower arc is variable, as it is all over the state.
So, from a water quality standpoint in the Arkansas Basin, nitrogen and phosphorus, two of the examples that we see a lot down here, show up in samples and create hotspots. So, how do we manage those specifically?
So, Amber, I think the nutrients have been getting significant attention for several years in Colorado right now due to the Regulation 85, which is the control regulation specifically for nutrients. The management of nutrients are done by, again, implementing BMPs, an effective and practicable means of preventing or reducing the amount of pollution generated by non-point sources. Selection of a BMP is, again, totally up to the producers who can select the most suitable BMP for their operations, right? But note that when implementing BMPs, the goal is to help with bottom line of the producers as well as water and soil quality improvements. So I do think any producers out there will be willing to lose any nutrients she spent time, effort, and money on to put them on the field. Water Quality Control Commission encourages development and implementation of nutrient management plans as BMPs. The development of nutrient management plans for crop production operations is an important initial means of reducing non-point source nutrient impacts on the surface and groundwater resources. So by implementing BMPs, let's keep them in the soil and not allow them run off the field and get to the state waters to create those very hot spots.
You mentioned Regulation 85 earlier, and that's a big risk for producers. Can you describe that risk a little bit more and what role they can play to clean it up?
Yeah. So, yeah, we just talked about Regulation 85. Its potential impact on the producers can be actually really significant. The commission is to make a decision on if the sufficient progress that we talked about a little bit ago has been made by the agricultural sector to control the agricultural inputs by actually after May 31st, 2022. If the commission decides that the sufficient progress was not made, then the agricultural nutrients can be regulated or may be regulated. And the sector will lose its voluntary status, right? Also, we will live in a communities. You live in a community, I live in a community, and we all live in a community ourselves. And so if there is no enough progress in non-point sources, that is gonna put bigger pressure on the point sources to clean that water. And who pays for it? You and I. So in the end, we all pay for it. So risk of not implementing water quality practices or BMPs may result in regulatory system for agricultural sector. And so that will be probably the biggest risk that communities may take. This is only from the productivity, I would say, perspective. If we are not taking care of our water, it also creates health issues. And would you be nice to your downstream neighbor or not? Do you want to provide them cleaner water or not? So risk is one, regulation. Two, if we are not managing right, we are probably losing money. If we are applying nutrients and washing it out through deep percolation or runoff, you are basically losing it. Three, there are health consequences of it.
Absolutely. It's pretty scary business.
It sure is. It sure is. But there is always solutions for that, right? Implementing BMPs, and our stakeholders, producers are savvy, and again, they will look for first their interest to improve their bottom lines, and then look for how they can produce the same amount or better with less inputs, taking advantages of probably grants that we provide to implement BMPs, new technologies, maybe a sprinkler system, or implement other BMPs to help him produce as much, if not better, and keep the water quality and soil quality in place to sustain that production.
Perfect. So you mentioned working with the producers. Do the producers work directly with you? And this isn't on your list, just came up with it. So do you work directly with the producers? And if so, how do they select a BMP? What does that process look like?
What the process may look like is we can always work directly with producers, no problem. But what the way our grant is set up is they are relatively large investments, and the producers may not be able to get all the grant requirements. So potentially having a in between people like Conservancy District, Lower Arkansas Valley Water Conservancy District. We have been working with the district for a long time now. So we provide the grant to the Conservancy District, and Conservancy District finds those stakeholders to implement BMPs will be suitable for that stakeholders' operations and will help water quality in the area. So that structure has been working pretty good. Instead of us working directly with the producer, one producer, I would say, group of producers under one organization makes things a lot easier for us in terms of managing that EPA grant, so that we have a contact of, say, conservation district, and then stakeholders may even feel better to deal with conservation districts or conservancy districts since they are local entities. So that structure has been serving us pretty well so far.
My next question I changed a little bit, but in your notes it probably says, what kind of opportunities does a producer have to balance the nutrients in the soil without compost or synthetic inputs?
I think the opportunities are tremendous for managing nutrients on a farm. So as one of BMPs may not fit all, any given producer will have to look into her or their operations, and figure out which BMP may fit best. So let's take a look at I would think, if I am a farmer, I would think first my nutrient application practice. If I am implementing nutrient BMP effectively, if I am using CSU recommendations to determine the amount of nutrients to go in the field, if I am applying those nutrients at the right time and at the right place, Or if I am applying the nutrients in a way, kind of split way, to be able to keep that in the soil the most, and um, be more efficiently used by the plant. So once you look at that, you always can look at other BMPs. Like if you are managing soil and water resources better, maybe moving, let's say, to a pressurized system could be a great option. Cover crops, keeping the soil covered as much as possible, could be a great option to improve the soil and water quality. Reduced tillage can also be implemented to allow um, uh, crop residue and less disturbed soil to get healthy. Of course, none of these BMPs are new. They have been implemented by the producers for a long time now, and we are just encouraging to implement more of those BMPs to keep those soils healthy. There is always technical assistance out there from CSU and NRCS experts. They can be consulted if a BMP is good for that area that stakeholder is farming. I think the other opportunity is that, and this is probably quite important, when planning on implementing a BMP, look for help. These practices are not cheap or may not be cheap, right? Our program exists to provide funding for implementation of these BMPs as long as certain criteria are met. And so contact non-point source program for funding opportunities before you even start doing anything. Or we have a little website, npscolorado.com. Go ahead and look for opportunities how you can get help, which exists out there for the good of stakeholders. You know, this benefit is everybody's for everybody.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you brought that up because economics is a huge piece for a producer, and kind of tying to that, water and soil quality have an economic benefit as long as we keep our water and our soils clean. What other benefits are there to keeping those clean?
Well, the thing is, I was thinking, what other benefits? That is a very comprehensive question. I think the very answer is prosperity. Prosperity to the valley, your area, prosperity to state, and in general to the country, right? So BMPs will improve the productivity and profitability for immediate needs and for future. A fully functioning soil will produce the maximum amount of products at the least cost. Actually, this is from NRCS. So that is going to help out the bottom line of the producers, right? Right. And so maximizing soil health is essential to maximizing profitability. Never forget. Water health is health will allow access to clean water for us right now, you and I and everyone else, but also next generations to come. I think in ag business, ag sector, the salinity is a better known concept to the producers because it directly impacts the crop productivity as well as soil health. Implementing BMPs may also help with salinity conditions in the water and in the soil in the long run. You know, going back to prosperity though, I was just talking to a friend of mine who found a very little, he says, lake on Adobe Creek. in the heart of Low Rock, right? So as the water quality improves, there will be more recreation for locals and for those potential visitors. And that will help the other sectors to thrive in the area also. So I am going back to my word, prosperity.
I love it. That's fantastic. So, is there anything else that you would like to cover for anybody listening or watching?
What I would say is keep thinking of your bottom line, and that is we all do, right? It doesn't matter what sector you are in, but also think that how you can do things a little bit better, and watch, keep an eye on neighbors. If they are doing something differently and producing the same amount or better, and so try to imitate that. And sure, there is cost or things associated with them, but there are a lot of resources out there. As I said, we provide grants, NRCS provide grants, Colorado Water Conservancy Board provide grants. So there is help out there. Look for help. Look for technical help, financial help, and so as we improve our bottom lines, everyone else's bottom line, go back to that prosperity deal, everyone else's bottom line will improve also.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kenan. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your expertise with us.
Appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity. I think this is one of my outreach and education kind of things I do. Giving me the opportunity doing this was huge for me.